Good evening, Grace Tabernacle. I know many of you will be checking in a little bit later also, but whether it's now or later, God bless you. I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight. I'm going to jump right into it. I ordered my freedom papers, and they came in the mail, so I have my documents, and I have my Constitution of the United States. Pretty excited about that. I have my Declaration of Independence. It's probably pretty loud in the camera, isn't it? Got my Declaration of Independence. And I have effectively called the Bill of Rights. And I brought those with me tonight. And I even have the original pen that they were written with. Of course, that's not true, but I'm going to have some fun tonight and do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to read some excerpts from these, what I'm calling freedom documents, for multiple reasons. One reason I will ask, when was the last time you read the Declaration of Independence, or the Constitution, or the Bill of Rights? And I would probably be assuming correctly to say probably haven't read that in quite a while. And I'm actually concerned that there's many Americans that have not read it at all. And I wanted to have some fun tonight, and I'm actually going to read some excerpts. And so grab yourself a cup of tea, sit back and relax. And I understand you may have to come back to this a little bit later if you'd like to finish it. But Grace Tabernacle, if you would, please take some time either to listen to what I'm reading tonight or take some time to read these documents for yourself. They're really not that long. You could probably read all of these documents in one setting if you were to spend some time on it in one evening, or you could certainly finish them within a week if you took a little bit of time each night and you read them. And I believe it's important. Now, I understand that I'm talking about civil government, and usually I'm preaching the Bible, and I'm excited to do that. We're going to get back to that probably tomorrow night as well. But I do believe that we are one nation under God, and I very strongly believe that America gives us a very unique opportunity. We have a very unique window of time as Christians. And though we are sojourners, we have a very unique opportunity to share the gospel not only to our neighbors but around the globe because of what these documents and the people that sacrifice to give them to us, what they give to us. There's not very many places on the globe today, even today. And this is the reason why I put Old Glory up here tonight, and I flew the Christian flag as well. And, of course, I had that up during our last service, but there's not very many places on the globe, even today, that you can fly these two banners side by side. And though Christ is the supreme authority, this banner right over here gives us an opportunity like no other civil government gives to share the gospel. And I believe that's very important. And so I'm going to read some excerpts tonight, but I'm going to make a few opening comments. One comment I will make, I understand the United States government is not perfect. And I'm talking to Grace Tabernacle tonight. I understand it's not perfect, but I would propose it is the best government that humanity has ever been given an opportunity to live under. I regret that the history of America is not without blemish. I regret that we had slavery in our early days. I regret that. I regret that we still fight on some fronts of civil liberties. I regret that the Native Americans were not treated in a Christian or just really in an appropriate way at all. In fact, those are my grandfathers that were put on the Trail of Tears. And so I have a little bit of connection there in my heritage, and I regret that. But I want to make the point, Grace Tabernacle, I think it is important to be patriotic. And why do I say that? Because of these documents right here that I'm going to read tonight, we've been given opportunity to correct the wrongs. You have to understand something about government. It turns very slow. You have to understand something about civilization. It turns very slow. And though slavery was a reproach, we could not have fought the Civil War to abolish slavery in the United States without these precious documents right here. And I understand that there are certain demographics of people that were not treated fairly. In fact, they were treated very wrongly. And some still are in some ways. And I understand that. But because of these documents, we are able to say, I'm sorry. We are given the opportunity to correct our wrongs. We are given the opportunity to correct them and move forward in grace because of the freedoms and liberties and that we're given because of these documents. And so I do believe it's very important to understand them. I do believe it's very important to have some respect for them. And I believe it's very important to at least know what they say at least an elementary level. And so I'm going to spend some time tonight actually reading some excerpts. And so in the context of being a Christian, it's very important to understand that these documents, of course, these are not pictures of the original. They're artistic renditions of them. I understand that. But because of these documents, we have protection and opportunity for evangelism. And so we must vote as Christians. You should vote. If you do not vote, as a pastor, as your pastor, I admonish you, I encourage you to get out and vote and get involved in the political atmosphere at some level. Get out and vote. Speak up. Of course, speak up in peace. Of course, protest if you need to protest, but protest in peace. But appreciate these documents that give us an opportunity to do that. But the number one thing that I get out of these documents of freedom, the number one thing that I get out of these documents is a very special connection to the opportunity to witness and to preach the gospel. It is such a privilege to fly these two banners side by side. And so the year was 1776. Of course, I'm not going to read all of them tonight. I would certainly lose most of you, but maybe I'll read enough to merit a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or sit back. Maybe you can come back to this later tonight while you're resting in bed. I'm just going to read the Declaration of Independence, a small portion of the Constitution of the United States, which includes the Bill of Rights. And so let's just listen to these documents and remember tonight. Going to challenge my English as I read the original writings. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of humanity events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the clauses which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assist should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly, for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislators. He has affected to render the military independent he has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislators and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections against us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sects, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred so disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. My friend, that is the Declaration of independence. Why do I read that tonight? I read that again tonight for multiple reasons. I won't say what I said at the beginning of this, but it's good to remind us that people paid a price. They gave up their fortunes, they gave up their livelihoods, they gave up their political good names. They were upstanding men with fortunes and regard, and they had good reputations, and they gave it up for freedom. The freedoms that we enjoy, by which we can raise the American flag and the Christian flag, the freedoms that we have, that we can enjoy, that give us a window of opportunity to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And of late, I have noticed that these rights can be taken away if we do not remember them, if we do not speak up, if we do not acknowledge them, if we do not vote. It is possible that these rights can be taken away. And so I continue. The Constitution from 1787. I'm just going to read a real short excerpt here. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And certainly I would lose most all of you if I read the entire Constitution, but I encourage you to do that. Please read the Constitution. You can read it in a very short sitting. But what I do want to read tonight, and just it'll take another maybe 10 minutes or less, I do want to read the Bill of Rights. The Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York. It was a Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1787. The conventions of a number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. And as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will be best ensured the beneficent ends of its institution. They say it's resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislators, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. My friend, Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6. In all criminal persecutions and the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel in his defense. Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value and controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And the last one I'm going to read tonight, Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, are to the people. My friend, if you have some time, find these documents. You can get them online. They're free. You can come borrow mine. Be aware of your rights, if for no other purpose than to appreciate the opportunity we have as Americans to propagate the gospel without fear. You don't have to be fearful, my friend. You don't have to be fearful. But we need to protect these rights, and we do that by speaking up. We do that by voting. We do that by using our rights. And in the kingdom of God, what an opportunity. Using our rights to propagate the gospel. Aren't you glad that we have the opportunity to get online? And you can sit there and I can preach to you. Do you know that not everybody can do that? Not everybody has this opportunity. Not everybody has the opportunity to freely, without fear, to go across. You, my friend, could stand up right now, go knock on your neighbor's door, or find somebody on the sidewalk, and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them without fear. And you can do that because of these documents. So I think it's appropriate to review them tonight. God bless you, Grace Tabernacle. I love you. God, I love the Constitution.